Malungil silsin marbek adroguy, yakmal mereng asuli wil kuplamo ser mot makartial gia a program ra Kausischakl. Iwaigel bekal program rigi. Ang artiang al host ra program argo na idum maging artial gora facilitated tel program ya tengaya terud long time contributors Mr. Jackson Henry, Mr. Moses Uludo. Talagang artiang katamal all mereng asuli ra bekal program. Iyagal ang artiang objek sang argi engkang Father Arthur engkang mga turing mo kasi siya ko tamen merbela in 1992 emlamor niya mal time to di mo kurtiay kita ngar bela lang ara alomay sa merbelaw hindi ka ul mga belaw kadam ng lisel kuk karyor energi ni Father JP am los mer bandira ka ngarti ang wal ko ra ol nga seora ay iglesia nila engkang ngara Blue Radio York seral mo ko ng Radio York yung gagawin ng arbelaw mang mal mo interesting a program rigi den kadum sa TL mang kukora mo o wai sa igel kukora o sengel rabay bi ratko niya omes okay la burbelaw ma akla lidera burbelaw mang mal di merit yang akmal beneng asuliw welcome to the program Father Arthur. Usually we start by giving the mic to since you're a guest I'm gonna keep you for last and then I'm gonna give the mic to Mr. Jackson Henry to lead the way with his topic for this program, and then after that, after his presentation, then we can all chip into the program and then ask questions or comment on his topic, and then we go around, and then when Moses' time is up, then we'll bring you into the program. So, Mr. Henry,
sure. Okay, Salah Kambes, my topic is public relations. I want to say this in English so Father, you can digest it while I explain in Palau what is public relations. Tapi ra sige with public relations, tiang apong tora abelaweng wangarang adluwil rogul malubang government moral arabulu. I say sige that tingin la public relations. I will bring it up mirubaka. Ilanga campaign year at the same time other belawa still demand the mamadangaya tora government even a private sector mang mal important sila nga rin nga umila del will rakong bali mal ubang government more other ablu lesson lungil sa del will other will understanding mang relak lablu relak la rin other ablu tayo tapi ka ulak net pick up ringilin last time mga milsa ringi brought up name Ivy, Poison Ivy. His real name is his real name is Ivy Lee. Ivy Lee is specialized in public relations. And Galada was born in sometime around early 1900s. So lang silver niya, gidile udligar akong bali. At hindi ko ang ulmek, masya kamagarang solve issue kamamalin. Gloria a riot pa massacre tarakong bali man makita image raman para adrablu maseral may wala si mo rakong bali ang danya right ringi lagi dele steel mill ang polwa si may will manage wa medial may so lang ito to pa medial mora akong bali mangugido a walk around ang pamesa akong bali matlitel laro ringi mar adrablu ang manik masing really ngaranga inner working raigal kombali. Ako na tisel walk around ba niya where I do mga avambes near diliwa minister agriculture mas kami walk around.
I see.
Yung example of public relations. Agra bulu amal mungil madanalit yang. Aktinek ulak ka, tinek bring it up. Tiya lebla bulis sa malospe angil public relations. Altang la ang nilawal maray, the image of tin mer adrabluak masi ngarap. Leng tadawuk timala pick and choose agil information al danay. At the same time, hindi ka gidele let's say a house organ retir, let's say a newspaper retir, al umen dia ka a press release retir once in a while at toto ng mga madangay. Pa adrabluak ka di raw rin mabuk nga rin Zuba ka di adra news mo pick up bits and pieces mang gagi dele Ivy liyak malwasi. Before the media gets the information from somebody else, it's best that you produce a press release, and that will solve all the information that or give the public the information they need on all the lablo. Say give you information mo. Naka ulak lugar tiyang mi will ruga kat adra media. Skumungin adra maliw kami ma adra lom interview tir lom government ma a private sector lom urtit. Kami report malungil both side of the issue adra blua mo madengaya both side of the issue. Mal critical masing basis na public relations, a press release, a transparency, openness ng mga media. Dahil gina a trial black na media, the media is gonna get the information one way or another. See that topic na natin mo kalamal mo na detail to 40 some years from other news. So anyway, that's my topic for the day, public relations.
Thank you, Mr. Henry. Basically, what he said was just to explain or describe the importance of public relations. That's what he said. How about Mr. Ngema?
ده mal مساولة هذا الباشل لو مشودل كالتغوي مرال ما كلوتو تليل إلى هذا أمور تملا كامبين يجد التلمذين الوسائلية Vice President الموضوع هذا ميديا الموبايل وسير مور المو Vice President إيوا سير President الأمو أناوس إلى من Sunday مور ما ديرك الواي تامين سوا ديرك لما إن رمان ده مو أناوس خروج تاني من كلود بتللا على أنا قبل من ترى إلى السينس especially إلى ترى تلقي بالموذي كلابلو ما كلود بتللا ونيلت لو التغير لو تبديل لو تاكتو من دي أقول متل أكلوا شيء ترجع ولا بالمورا البريسيدنت ولا مورا فايس بريسيدنت تنهار بيسيلان لسل ولو يسيجي دنيا مودي أكلوا مرang راب من أكيكارا سنكون مورنيرا نوفمبر مودي أكلوا مرang من سيجي ده أكلوا تتلين من أكلوا مرang راب أكلوا تتلين المراقبلمنت مرا الله هذا الوال للمسؤول ولا تقوي سلم قد مكلم موندي السكوم دي أكل مرang إذا قصة المكتوب كم رجع كم راجع مكتوب ذا سكوم تبلغ تاكل اللينس لو توب ذا قال التقولورو اللي تيجي على من تمرو لا قال جيرت بتيجي على من تجيد ده قال ذا كلوك لي ربيرين جيرل مو بلاتاك لو توب ذا قال تقول نرجع.
Okay. Agora, agora, public relations, agora.
Ako mas nandiyan si Sul Moraro ulto ilorur niya adra brulat. Egel sa malorul morgaw o morul mortir. You know? Siya principle ra golden rule, do unto others as you have them do to you. Ya kabelmente el treat ra adra blul nga risi. Hindi ka sabihin long da silwa sige da enemirtir. Then ang ara loba ang ara lilong ra kita rokoy meng giren ere tokora adra blu mutmo umimokla. Logera karil mortal kabelmente. Giren mal mimokl dia tokora. Just imagine ako pol kasi barang udra urerir. Itiga dira kom tergi de udo del malso mo kasi barang udra urerir batmal la blu rogis. O tirar al principio la adi adil gora mora tokora kabelmente. Mora klangar kita de vera urogo. Ngirem mangulra targa mga do ora grill kung era grill hindi kadim tomer ngim do sigal ngaria ngodla dan kita kau marang roko klau marang obangela tiagi del lagatak le transparency del government ako mas most important klangar kita kiraksi
tial toera social media hindi ka toka social media toera public relations at this day and age with ubiquitousness of social media, public relations has taken an importance, and that's because akabalment trigger ilang mal will example kadi mo Facebook page Office of the President. Hindi lang rangkel tokoy lurior ang event or activity president that take parts in. Ito matangali siya matame wasyasin. Lucia ako rakikarero masodel malubang press release otobdi. That's part of a public relations campaign. Ulo mang important rin lang, sales ko mang klo information el moral adra blue pada bloon masama darwa tokoy darwa ng sabel dito lo adra ay malubeng alawith rumors margo tomalyaw rin mang say gida mal suko marbek la di balda la martir marala exchange information and gidel ngani say gida not necessarily more government ma direct mo al adra blue ma state government ma ang important engage with the public. Hindi kalbulbul kasi ako gumes ngil was hindi kalbul din engage raro kulto ko ito sa social media. Hindi lang nga niya strategy tiro say how do we engage with those. Di sales mo ma important kasi sales ko mang dia ka information baru bang korak mal baram sa information mo. Yan adra blue o mes ngil was say sem ladu mangira government mo kut maklara dia kara sige ng dia monda esel aigal drew alla our positions of trust esel the hard currency asel trust adrawlu mera igalurior mang PR dia ka daw mesilo sien kora magasang ngomes ngil wase sige del dia ka amrisi sa gidel taw marar adrawlu ay gagid rot to la ice mo so dala igal tokoy ay kakabot to malyaw ro mal because yang ani ako rumors ang alawid na ice marara.
Let me add another thing here, Kambese. Part public relations, sen openness ra either governmental or private sector marabuhay. Invite tir mega comments, criticism, or even suggestions. Leng from the management point of view, even criticism or comments are free advice. Free. You don't have to pay for anything. Say so the more you get the input from the community, even if it's a criticism, it helps you become a better organization. And so we don't block those comments or criticism or even questions. Like what's what make a public relations work for everyone.
So, Mr. Henry. Tapi ako ba kilmang kora buwa amay ka.
Manuel silsen mo kitrogul guknos el kaswes el altayan. Nakamangutel te alam na kasulelang el MC gidilan langwa lal maskal mo giregel mo da durang karubal to param rigel gal to gwets lokyat. So I have an honor to open the dialogue with our guest, special guest. But before that, I must say, Jackson, that I'm very proud to be a Catholic and to have a Catholic priest here, and I'm sure you are, but Joel, I guess, and Cambes, they're not Catholic, so I guess you. But Father, before I came this morning, today, I read a story. This barber was cutting hair. He got a hair of a florist, And then he asked us, hey, how much is my bill? So I said, never mind. Today I dedicate it to provide service to the community. So he left, and the next day when he came to work, he saw a flower, very nice flower, and thank you, no. And then he got the hair of a beggar. So the beggar finished, have to pay. Said, no, I don't accept. It's my day of service to the community. So, and then the next day he came to the office. Then there's a nice bread and a thank you note. And then the third day, a congressman came and cut his hair, and he started to pay the barber, and the barber said, no, it's my day of service. So the next day after, when he came, all the congressmen were there to get a free haircut. So with that, it's an issue about the concept of entitlement. I'm a Catholic. I go to church only once on Sunday, and I expect the priest. I'm entitled to a priest to say mass and to eat and to maintain the church, but my donation is very small. So I kind of think. I feel I'm entitled to mass. I'm entitled to service from the priest when I have sick mother, then he comes to pray. During funeral, he comes to pray. But when it comes to support, I don't pay enough or contribute enough. I know you've dealt with this issue I like an input from you. I know you're a philosopher and you're a PhD. You've written books, but if you can kind of do it in a layman approach, so we can all jump in and then share with you our ideas.
Okay. Thank you. Just a background, just to further introduce myself. Before I came here, I was in New York. And for the last 25 years, I've been reflecting, reading, and thinking about the interplay between indigenous leadership and contemporary leadership. So I come to this conversation with that. And as I've told people, I know the theory, not necessarily the reality. So I am like a doctor. You tell me the sickness, I can give you the answer. And so that's as I come into this conversation. And I think just with this topic of public relationship, the big one they marry is about relationships. Indigenous culture is grounded in a complex network of relationships. Our contemporary system is also complex, but I claim it's not as complex as the indigenous because we have to think about stories, whereas the contemporary has laws, policies, structures. And so that's the difference. And relationships, public relationships, I agree that if we treat public relationships like personal relationships, then we can begin a journey because really all relationships should be based on trust. If there is no trust in personal relationships or any family relationships, people will sort of be suspicious of you. But I think the key, and I agree, the key for relationships or public relationships is a sense of trust. And this is segue into entitlement. Entitlement has got a bad rap in many areas because entitlement very simply is I want something, but I don't pay for it. You give me something and I don't reciprocate. I take on something and I don't work for it. So it is my entitlement that you do this for me because of that. And so the missing part of this relationship is you don't do anything, but you tell me I have to do it. And I go back to the analogy of the priest. You tell me to come and say Mass, bless your mother, but you don't do anything for me. So you said, I'm a member of the church and therefore I'm entitled to all this. But the action of doing something, you don't do it. So entitlement is an issue in leadership, a big problem. And as I told Moses the other time, the difficulty of political leadership and chief leadership is all mixed up. In the past, chiefs were entitled for people to sort of do things for them. And it was by tradition, custom, hereditary, leadership. But as we have moved on, that has sort of skewed. And sometimes the normal, any indigenous culture, if you study leadership or chiefs, it was always reciprocal. We give, you collect, and you distribute. That was the principle. That yes, we'll give you the pigs, we'll give you the yams, we'll give you the land, but you are just a conduit of that, and you are supposed to give it up. But the big problem I feel that is not with the leadership, not with, older people. My scare is the present generation of children. The present generation of children, they have adopted this habit of entitlement. And if we don't do anything about it, so my area of education is how do we sort of train our children to sort of face this disease. And there are many philosophers, principals, educational gurus who have this, but I've been impressed. It's simple, according to some. It's basically to teach kids as soon as they can speak to say thank you. The sense of gratitude will help us. And so just keep on saying, okay, I give you this, and silent. What do you say? So that's number one, to instill within us, within everyone, the gratitude. And that goes right up to us, that we have skills, we have talents, but for us to be grateful. And secondly, the big one, which I think is important, is humility. Humility is very, very important, that we are humble to accept who we are and the gifts we have received. So I want to stop there.
Thank you. I'll give the mic back to you, Irma. And then Johnny, the Jackson. May kartero daw spela kami ta discussion. Oh yeah.
Lu halabak po.
Oh yeah. Abo, Mr.
General me. Po era bok kamet nga rubak ti wa sa drablulo mesetal surgit. Ngal badre angod lengang Society of Jesus. And the Society of Jesus are the same priests who taught me at Xavier High School and him too. Their mission is to be educators. So listen to Father Arthur give his very well analyzed concept. Is born out of his mission to educate. So at this one, other brother you say, Father Arthur, I think this concept of the traditional and the modern leadership and entitlement and public relations is inherent in the system itself, because you got two systems on either a collision course or on a parallel path. Now, the reason why they say America is the most progressive society in the world, most economically advanced, is because they are enemies of culture. They have decided to take all the different culture and made them a subculture. They are not the prime culture. The prime culture in America is founded on reason, on education, on scientific evidence, on a sense of fairness, and the individual rights. And all this was born out of Max Weber's concept of the Protestant work ethic, which became the foundation of the Constitution and became a culture of America. So, yes, it is a topic that inherent, and in Palau we feel the tension every day, because sometimes people take advantage of it. Okay, so let's say you are trying to use a modern system to operate, and then later on you get into a speed bump. You say, hey, wait a minute, I'm going to jump into the traditional system as my defense. And then if the traditional system don't work, you jump back into the modern system. So that's why you got all these lawyers working overtime, regarding titles of land, the titles of the chief, But in the old days, we never had that system. If there's a conflict, the family will get together and, sort things out. And, the relations has to be preserved, the sense of appreciation, the gratitude you mentioned. But now, if there's a conflict in Palau, they think that route is not going to solve it. All they have to do is pay a lawyer. And they summon the opposition and they go to court. And then now the relationship is already tainted because the families are in collusion, So it is a tough topic, Father. I know, like you say, you've been thinking about it because every society that is culturally strong and adopting the modern society is always going to have this conflict. And the solution is hard to find, but like you say, if the sense of appreciation, the sense of understand each other through a good relations, is probably the best foundation to start, Anyway, that's a fantastic topic, and that's my comment on it. Thanks.
Thank you. Would you like to comment on that, or should I give Moses also a response before you?
No, just one
Okay, yeah, sure.
key comment
Yes.
is that there's tension. And out of tension can come creativity if we pull the rubber band. And I think recognizing the tension for us not to be afraid to say, oh, there's a creative way of being this. And I think this is part of the dilemma. There's tension and we try to solve it, but many people say, just stay with it for a while and reflect on it and appropriate it and see what comes out. So for me, at the present moment, my reflection has been on creative tensions. There are tensions in the world, there are tensions, but how we resolve it is basically is to recognize it.
Well, I studied to become a priest, and then St. Peter upstairs says, "No, you don't belong here." So the student become a journalist or become a political activist. I know you're from Fiji, and you have a mixed culture, also part of Tongan. So, and you grow up and you live in Fiji, and you in your years you told me that you have given lectures and to leaders around the Pacific. And I guess Palau is kind of a new country in terms of last 4 years, and Fiji is a much older one. But Fiji also has its own turmoil, yeah? And we have like 3 coup d'etat, but Fiji is a much bigger country than us. How do they this in terms of, they're also very strong Christians, but the politics is also maybe more trouble than Palau,
The coup is the answer.
Yeah.
Basically, for the since the first coup in 87, and with Bainimarama, is basically replace the traditional system with a modern system, period. Get rid of all the chiefs.
Wow.
And their power. So you go back to your village, you are only chief in your village. Previously, there was a council of chiefs who had veto power. That anything had to do with land, custom, tradition had to go through them. So the coup leaders made a decision that is the best way for development of Fiji.
I think our constitution specifically says that both the authority are exercised equally. And this one will never open up this one, provided they will not divert from the principle of traditional laws. And so I was reading this article from Tiabela about the ignore the realities of the title of it. It says, this American socio-political thing is ruining us. So I think based on that, because it's a long time ago argument, they put these two together. And I've lived through it that it never solved any problem. It just, our problem 30 years ago when they put this thing together is being achieved versus elected leaders ever since. The way I look at it, the chief are losing ground because the elected leaders are financially okay. And how can you solve that? Well, where do we go from here?
I think
Not a coup.
Not a coup.
I think with most of my studies with culture, one of the things that has deteriorated very fast in many cultures is an understanding of a self-identity. And therefore, when we talk about traditional leaders, they still have many places, they have a profile of a traditional leader according to the foreigner. So the foreigners came and says, you are the traditional leader, and this is the profile. And so particularly that has been an issue. And so they are living a false identity. And because there has not been, in many places, a real in-depth study of leadership and what type of leadership was, so they are picking and choosing. So that's my studies, is basically what is it in indigenous leaders that's unique to them without the psychology, without the anthropology. And so that's where I've gone. That basically, if we would talk to the traditional leaders, if I say, okay, what is the core that describes you as a traditional leader in Palau? And just go through my checklist. I have a checklist and say, maybe this is missing. But I think it's what I feel is a self-reflection on the identity of the traditional chiefs. I think we have all the documentation on parliamentary, or now political leaders, but I think that needs to be resurrected. That needs to be sort of a very serious self-reflection. And the people who study anthropology and language, if they can help, because I think that's been the problem. That's where I think we may.
Let me give a comment about one instances in the United States that has been working well. Is the case of the American Indians. They know who their chiefs are, and they all form a council. But because their tribe is making so much money, either selling lumber or extracting mineral resources or even their casinos, so there's so much money in there that the Council of Chiefs are appropriating this money to everyone, and they have such a good standard of living to a point where conflict is no longer there. They don't need any more elected leaders. They say, no, the chiefs are doing fine. So sometimes maybe even the power of money can really solve these tensions, because a lot of these, it's of course it's laughable, but there's been cases where the eruption of conflict erupts when the chief gets all the money for the clan and don't share it. Or if he shares it, it's not equitable to everyone, So again, it's kind of a joke, but sometimes the traditional system works better when there's enough resources to go around. Because when you have no resources, and then you're fighting, I want to be the one deciding what to do with these scarce resources, and that's where the conflict erupts. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, because I did my research with them.
Oh, really?
And it's opposite.
Oh, it's the opposite. Okay.
Completely opposite. The breakdown of leadership and the breakdown of the Native American society is pathetic. And because I was working with a Native American woman, and we went, and she cried every time we talked about leadership. Because, yes, it was money, but the chiefly system is not in their system. It was imposed on them. They are like the Aborigines. They were nomads. They walked around. And so trying to put them into a structure was an American imposition. And therefore they have, but in the Northwest, where I lived for 20 or 15 years, up Spokane, Idaho, all that area, it is. I mean, the reservations are really pathetic. The casinos, and her research was, what can we do? So I think I feel that example of that particular group, because I did that, and I went to Alaska, to the Alaskan Eskimos, and checked them out. So my study was basically world, global indigenous peoples. That's my job.
There was somebody was joking about the case of the American Indians. Says, I'd rather have the American Indians fight among each other because they have money,
Yeah.
as opposed to fighting because there's no money.
Yes. Yes.
I attended a indigenous world conference in Albuquerque.
Yeah.
And one of the topic was they committed more suicide than any other group of people. Yeah. Because, and this is what they were talking about, because the outside world has been speaking on their behalf. They've been told what to do instead of asking them what they want to do. So, and I had an example of Father Hazel, who represents the FSM, and he's been there for a long time. So the chairperson asked him, so which part of the Micronesia you came from? And he says, well, I'm an Irish priest. I was in New York and I've been in FSM for 30 years. So she just says, even though you can walk like a duck, you talk like a duck, but you are not a duck. That caused the American Indians to commit the suicide because they've been told what to do instead of being asked. So it's just something I learned from that.
Interesting.
Yeah. So I think this notion of entitlement, as described using the analogy of the faithful, and maybe it's just my naive mind, but when I the tension that I see is comes from because it's because that our leaders fail to respond to our concerns, the people in the community, and for example, now in the society there are those people who have a well-to-do lives. Okay? There's resources, and they seem to be climbing, amassing so much wealth, while the rest of the people, are struggle. They would like to, in their mind, they would like, how can I is there a door that is going to open somewhere that I can just get in, and then I'm just going to live my life and everybody close to me up? And I think that's where the tension is, because when the leaders fail to respond, so I don't really blame those who people say that I think this entitlement mentality is a bad thing, but it's that reaction from the people demanding from their leaders to address this issue that are really near and dear to them, and they don't see that happening with our leaders. So that's the entire. So I don't fully blame the entitlement. I just say like, hey, go ahead and do it, because if you don't do it, then who are they going to listen to? I mean, how would they know your issue? You just need to do that and demand from them, because if not, they're just gonna do whatever they want.
Yeah. Can I expand on that? Okay. You're right. I also believe about that particular point of view, because when I was at Xavier and Frank Hazel was, he had this book we're reading, the original economic status of all these islands fell into what you call a primitive communism. It's a socialist society where everybody shared the resources equally or equitably. Now, here comes the Americans. Yeah, they teach us about freedom, the free enterprise, capitalism. So some of us who were smart and diligent and had a work ethic zoomed as far as wealth is concerned. And some of us who are still playing the ukulele and going to the farm and fishing became the outcast of the society. And so later on, as we moved on, we start to realize, hey, wait a minute, why am I left out? And why is he got all the power and the money, and I don't have a say anymore? And that became another tension, Arthur. It became a tension. It became an issue that even to this day, a lot of the local people are questioning the leaders. Why are they becoming so wealthy and getting all the power? And what about us? there's this question of what about us? Because the sense of entitlement has to come in, because traditionally we're always entitled to something, but not anymore. Either you work for it or they're not going to give it to you.
Any thoughts on that, Father?
No, I think the context is changing so fast. The tensions are still there, old tensions, new tensions. Like this distribution of wealth is a new thing. And therefore, how do we cope with the context that is moving? It's like a moving target. And so where do we begin that conversation? And I think an analysis of the context and the present context of Palau would be a good exercise. What is, the gap between the rich and the poor, the educated and the non-educated, and saying, okay, is that, because there's always that tension between all those factors. And I think what we can do is look at it and say, okay, yes, this is where we're at, and how do we approach it? I think with reason, not with emotion.
Let me just one more topic. This is this is more like almost like a joke, but they say this is also creating what you call a crab mentality.
Oh, yeah.
So one crab try to get out of the bucket, and a few pull them down, because they say, hey, we don't want to see you go up there while I'm still down here. Let's share the resources. That's my, yeah.
Yeah, I guess I want to just point the attention, especially with this tax thing, this PCST. I mean, the very people who make it law are the very people who are in the top. They make 50,000 or to over 200. They make a law that take money out of my pocket. Now they're saying, oh, we're going to return the tax rate. Those of you who are poor, who like $15,000 down, you don't have money, so we're going to return that tax we pay. And I guess this month they're going to give it to them. So I mean, it's just so the question: why did you take it in the first place? Why don't you just leave it? Now they said, okay, you have to fill some kind of a form, so that, and if you don't fill that by yesterday, then you cannot get it. But when you took it from my check, you need my name, So I mean, why you just, if you're going to give to me my money that you use without paying interest, just go ahead and give it to me. So it's like a double whammy, It's just so that kind of situation where the people who are in the leadership who makes law, they enact this thing, and it's not affecting them; it's affecting me. So this is the thing that you look at it as the tension, right?
Mr. Urudo, ngani at tapi kalau kung dimna say kitil.
Oh, hindi ako nga niya.
Di ako Andi sa kalmutan mo tiyagi dili subject to entitlement. I think the confusion, I don't say a problem, but the confusion is between the chiefs and the Constitution. So a question was arise on the Facebook. Are we in a democratic system or a constitutional community? Which one do you think we are in at this point?
Well, I think you're in a republic more than a constitution. I feel, just as an observer in the way the mechanics of the leadership and the system works.
So they play more on a democratic part than applying the constitutional part of our society.
Because it's safe. It's safe because if you're going to go to the Constitution, you have to stick with the Constitution. And there is no nuance in the Constitution, in the legal system. And that's why we have lawyers who
define it accordingly.
Yeah. So that's my...
No, I think no.
Okay, hindi kami da gitial da masa teme dan ko amalungi. Hindi kami da borsel one program margi di box share ital baby message. So Father, there's it's a new part of the program where we invite the viewers to submit their comments, suggestions, or questions regarding issues or what they think of the
The
program.
last program.
From the last program. So I've received some comments and I want to share them with the viewers and also comments from our panel. So maybe the next program, they will be commenting on this topic that we shared today. So aigal comment tangala YouTube. Margong social overall wa YouTube am comment tagap olmam ka release el main el comment ngani au reply. And then I'll reply all but other replies el main el comment manganya exchange. So mandiak por siya igid like individual reply lang. Al baby ra time ang di one al at terul ave margoy magigit al reply. Maktimong mil tatul comment. El ralka karus al ade margoy mo muy lang kora balance each other out. Margoy ngayak mo o ngul ngani awan al mo require comment ra panelist mang akmo or maudusugirel. So these are written in English. Akmal di mo muyul tokor belaw mang at sumagal malusap tiang awasak akor bel alwida mal di wilkam mo sel YouTube margo sum aklisel dek alwida ngi. Di kora di mo condense tial ligang margo wais ngi. So tiang al YouTube comment tamlara Socorro 6476. En wasay mal makita arangut sel domes sem lo americal press conference el presidente akmulo saying sabe el hire ngidil avel ngia soal el mo director rabia bulis di gitan other belaw soada o spera aval soada avel lo ngara araw rabia bulis el at least en sel got el kuryo schoolen ang anya background ngira law enforcement mak criminal justice. Sel sukumar ava o gerager lom gatak la o masodel atoy mak qualifications en cloable gul clow to el executive branch mal ubang yidil nga al ministry metto del mobla gatak ndia ka dulu asay kaduguk mal moy misel ko makaya o masodel igel ko personal information mora and then gire the loto the information gire la credentials ma qualifications ng kala sel suguma other belaw ang arnya career el gire la oitay gire toy en gire el cloud tutelel el raat cloud tutelel donger ngi agut makli elela yan adra blue amodia kalau umrang sel dia kalau umrang adra blue malamol ngarngi dia kal bolak sel statement el maldung el wasay ababilingel angkal adra ngabar ababilingel la school angara blue ra dois lobangel el ngara blir adra blir ngara dois melogoy lo asya sumung suadal mo ngé kada haraw ra trip pengin mo ra dois el mong mai ase inclabalut toy el al time and said el di mo online request aga pira degree el more sel school el gawa tiro baderngi el mang sebari lo dulu clear kapira degree kaul me matiang kada dulu asay mal maring el toy tiang manda kasebe de ruling say give el nga ka more sel one ragament tiang adira ko response mora tial show ra gen lamadung maigal bebi ragament na tial YouTube mlara adel daiksan ang clear nga wasing mal kita ngut sel do mesra ar politicians el mrurtil mota adra media Moses politician adra la viaga skulel ra journalism ayaw el toribiong retired del senator el direct el lagal graduate traskura journalism Jackson Henry adra siobay direct el graduate traskura journalism yakambes adia kudungel monggang ngarang ndik madengel waseng gadim lagal graduate traskura journalism Irene mongosisiw kamiu komtaraes amiu dang okkastilang om kodong kamiu mosyo kom adra media el dia ka skuli ra journalism there question ra director ra blela bulis ra credentials ringi kamiu kami bunch of hypocriticals. Kami kel programmer kami malyo makpitan. Dia katamam debate ladrongoli. Ya kampes se longu kay gital kamen tendi mong mil tay kalungil kamen tel legor kami moy tay gel baby. Mendire kalyo makpitan. Kami tiang adi opinion, kami opinion host. Kami adi ako journal, you are not a real journalist. Kami away dio ol tobada ata toy el kom di mali ba toy el como question ra araat. Di kami amraringi kami away poison ra mind ra adra blur belau los pe ablulok ni. So siya dia at tinggal kal raiksa. Emar ko ngaigal at tinggal ngaigal black pot al mo yuringi el sokoro matira ngai raiksa nga oil beto ka reply siringi mang di mi mop kal mora YouTube channel mo yu kay Michael replies Michael ku pebir ra kamenton. Kami ngora meldung ang clue. Kami knukyal mas kami dia ka skuli rationalism. Yang artiang mga vega ni.
Ako na sa mal simple latil give alwidra at korte tege program le kota tel programa ultob da udasu ultob da udasu kiret mang diakal adana do korte adana do sita ada tangal tiangal adra news o mang adra news la guklen adakal lo ngelo ase adra news melus journalist ngel melus lan o dia ka pal beto kan melus tiap lulan na melus ahoma asimbung el dimla kal top dra journalist me la brangi aku pal de espera example el algo se o ya boni basyo basilus mas escola ludong o babira journalist ndi dimla katar lia asimbung dimla katar asimbung luai ngakal luki merak o mengkakroso mga kamera dia ka journalist nanti ako melara media ra television esa minor kalis ako ndasong guk esel guk ngul guk mo mulkolo set ngla kasi bar ngul gidre guk question ra at credential mo son la mabiran kalmretar pulis ul ko malay nga mo uro merikit uro ra kam metri harangi il mangkarikit nga ako tengar ba mo lo lababo sa mangkarikit menggira mo matangay ya ul mo question no ngang mil karang ya president whip sa tutki engya di lulu sa pala siringi o ako tarata belaw yung adam rigel mo mung maara belam aong heru mung atarima boto tengelo si asung ba adam uro gire engya matangelo si gangar ya babir ngi blula kay gel babir ngi lablatat di ulu sa kumesit tilang sel babir ngi ang klela ta exam ada sa do sen carpenter to kamit mlas ablay makbangelo si blula kang klel menggang ato kam rigelen fake o dia ka risi elarmul bablinga metodo otiak klet poila tual nga di wilal mal nga niya lemeltel el kmuto raw de suel el kirek din ngira metodo de otiak klel nga goten fake ya ongerun kawor tambatak talala egel tukoy lo sengul adirekal off lendia kamrat ya tukoy bol Kabo,
well, one thing, we welcome all kinds of comments. And, I welcome criticism. I become a better man if somebody has the audacity to tell me who I am. So, anyway, I welcome the comment. But having said that, Tiagid, to be a news commentator, you don't need a degree. You all you have to do is watch CNN. You got famous movie stars giving opinions on news. You got Harvard professors giving their ideas, comments on legislation. You got even retired politicians in America giving their comment on news items. So to comment on the news, you don't need a degree in journalism. Yeah. Anyway, that turns off. I think the guy who wrote that is probably naive, and he's probably maybe even an elementary school student. But we welcome his comment.
Sila eh. Well, what I do?
Ya, wai se. Nga kom das lu aseng silte eleg lebes kaka. Watem la largit. El muso am que la gaben mentrao ma blur belau. Agir lo bengel anklem. Girem sem de la so am como mreke asele nga ga yo el toribio. Nga ka ulma tirel tatirge lo gerengal mredra al bulis. Dilo lo oti amran klel. Di mga bulungor gitu rokul diwang ka daiksa. Ulgo mong maral daiksa uk malo oiso sing aral bla bla pagadaor. Akmo mongol ring di aksan mongol ring leng ospera ngot al tokoy masadra ngot al tokoy. Ya osisi ultreta lang niya daiksa nga madiwal nga ring ka direktor bulis. Ngomski da ngot al papier. Ya bod check et sel school tilo bodringi. Adia ka school sek mong mlarayang del mel school mlargeleng. Njakal maral tokoy. Matsum ka dol all town des wedra buay. Ibom bom kerkik lo tebel de sia men liang klem. Kita di nomor ro reng sera abadre. Awel al soding wasanga ka abadre na New York em karal. Say aklu ngol tel do tangarngi. Mong di wila le metiki di lang klem rim bodo ngel wase. Kudungil lo reng ser gumi wada ka dire di wangkal beredar buli ser kau. Di ta kametra.
So, sular po ito ang hukti kami tang agiret yang kasi maybe aktir kal makmay dalwa Jackson was enggal mixed up opinion talk shows or white yang masel sure kama mlara press conference ra office ra president akma mo was enggang masawa ad mulu sa news tial journalism huk mara part tira kasi kami di opinion host akmo confused yang but anyway so aktir kal mes kasi awang kagita ad mulu sa igang al asabel do a simple research ra Google. Google is a tool available for everyone 24 hours a day. So when I got this comment, yak kasi kahal lepo kusigil wasi. Kamama journalist trablur belaw kamama kalikim blam turadul bed belagi mo dagay. Ya ubabak research ang 40% tra journalist trablur ang brigel avya katigritir. Okay? So that's a significant number. Magukara kasi makahalugong ebo ku portirkal domestic tirakal major news onyo set tirkataw di green dia. The first thing that came to my mind, a Christian Amanpour, gele Iranian American. She has a degree in journalism. Magugore mo gele Wolf Blitzer CNN. Gele dia ka degree ringi. Hindi ko na si tirka tome sa ikan di another ka dimtang le Wolf Blitzer. E kada mo gele Jake Tapper. Gele dire ka lang. Gele dia ka degree ringi ra journalism. George Stephanopoulos ra Good Morning America. He's like one of the highest paid el journalism, el media face of Rigel. Diya ka digri. So, tiragal mga otil wasay. If he or she did a bit of research, ang madangel wasay, dirgal wal ito ta argument ringi. Abuluro belaw, ang haringyar nga legal belaw journalist. Malular mulen, they're very bright. Writing skills tirar motor advance gidra mang endit tiraga nga alame ta ngungil etorior ra kabalmen ta mabebi ra line of work. Di at the back of my mind kasi atarak club set among masawlaran din nga kabalment. Masel meg yung oy titringul me mag yung regular tira tang arami dia. Oy mang tugok mo tial journalism profession ngul mora next level. Mang gagali mandi swakal di imalgor sa igid wasay. So you don't have to be a journalist to question your leaders. That's one. Number two, every citizen Rabalur Belaw ang niya lamaltir to question their leaders. By giran, we have to encourage everyone. Ang niya civic engagement tertir. Proactive engagement tertir, government tertir. Eleng ay gasel bolwa isaygid. Kasi kipra leaders leader honest, kipra government tergid. Ay gero ko il madala urior ta implement ang naraygel la mandate tertir ang maruri. Sige daw ulmang important. Mang laka po bagi klats ko mun ka degree ka journalist other belaw. Please continue to ask questions. I will close with this. Also ko ngarinya journalist and Larset press conference. He or she would have asked the same question or even more. Di say them. And then Father, we are moving to the very last part of our program. We call it lightning round. And lightning round, I'm going to give 90 seconds for each one to comment on anything or the last thing that they forgot to mention or anything that comes to their mind, you will have the time to close out your statement for this program. So, okay. So maybe I'll start with you, and then we go around. Okay. So I'll give you 90 seconds.
I encourage people to continue to ask critical questions. That's the future of any civilization, asking the critical questions.
Okay. Thank you, Father Arthur. Mr. Henry.
Oh, thank you, Kambes. Okay, sir, it's been 3 years. Mahal dia ka private development terbelau. Maybe because COVID-19 and the downturn of tourism. So, however, there was only one project in Loringisel, a Palau Mangrove Forest Resort ng Rakabsang, which I was part of. Akmle broker ng Gelrubak. So anyway, that was the only one. The front page at Tiablar at Tutawak masem aring iborayray. Makmal mortiang merti trial adal proposed tel project leng it's a breath of fresh air. It's our shining star. Mase abelaw adir kangara a private sector as dirigo utili lang ada chance rigid. Ledang arang government tigit ahman klo. We have too many 29 congressmen and so many agencies and too many cabinet members. So we have an overbloated government. We need to build a bigger private sector. So I just want to make a point. Congratulate Tigele mga tapos project mo Rai called Rai Global Corporation. We wish you the best, and we're looking forward to a groundbreaking very soon. Thank you.
Sulay, Mr. Henry. Kabo, Mr. Ulugo.
Nakamal di kete ba, waigel namdo Elia Vice President Senior, Udo Senior, ulo aisra adra simbong lo asing murmurte malungilin dirga beltarraraw enya mo announce presidenta gidar amdonelo es el programa rara se november akmildetli wa question samong wasem na announce murmur elgo next week ang mo announce formal former president tamir mga sa mo announce mal klo to tlele mal mbede watiang at reform tial tetelaseng kurgi all time raw era san mo bo digla blu pe mal butoga treta sinkul mal tramal aktiom das was atra sel best tol a la el mrul arulia senkyo el mo mandatory girela adl senkyo len tal sils sel ewarra el gotu klo to tlel gamong il tia mredragaw el mo mrul la tangargaw mo manglagem e diregel mo tautalla maklo to tlel o morim mo asivim ngrablim milil ya bebira ada mol decidra ada morol girem mal giren mo se mandatory el sugum mendiam senkyo kobals sugum mendiam senkyo en sul daklem maklo to tlel e me godre lilo ase sugum ka mormur temlu cycle togol was ewarrak en rakamomru lem attach ringi sele application nakara akani desima firgaw e file ringi bomo mar blu bodo ogurgri garaba bomo aisra bekl raglo wasing aigal ngarakam larmun mol muta raba bomrek ewarra namo giredel ngoite tigal ad mormurt en ngoite tri orir mera utum nekal waiter elal didrur traklawat maklaw le mingit sel mo ko la barngut itang murela digida gumesa reform malungil geden gatmok de gadungo serlistri gidel me de reform ringi ederlia tial absenti balot bolpoyot sibira adli ngara email sen kyo ay kapayota ta secure ay ka emergo di derlilo se como tax mira sumom se outside mo nen tigal ada ngara o de mada del basen ado sperti etanga se o se digal se bedel mo o malakar tiro sen dial secure belau di busegide kuk na di segala
Como sa uli, Mr. Uludom. Kaya korgar po oray dom. Ido.
Hindi ka kasi elal February 12 ito mamro sa tax refund. Moise.
I see.
Adi gulgit ni radar government siya pomoro siringil tapos mortirigil mle haraw. Mal bader nga kalsukuma radar angod rule kerbelaw ada treated differently. Maria Adal melu sulwase. Tirga hara barak seti tirga hara nganaklet. Adal belau ngara yung la bandera ngar belau. En Dios isyo treatment realmente merao. Megulit tergumi memlutun mo subia undas. Elak da hara tak serogu igmi molit tral somi wem. Rifandertir. Dice gide.
Yeah, kami aman masaul Keterubak and Father, thank you for coming, joining us in this program today. Maybe we'll get to schedule another one later on to talk more about issues to give us that different and refreshing look from our everyday eyes that we go around town and talk to people. It's always the same. It's so refreshing to have you here for this program. So thank you so much. Program kita mal di meritiang ya gilmo akmal gilmo tal di mga lerar adwa say kita comment tra YouTube, ma Facebook, malum email, please send na comment tra kaun may agi dire mal ko di mga lerar say ay gel issue ng artiang asem del sem comment malu bang ari me go malu bang ari aku ti ngo to ko il chamel kmung please submit se le me agi di mo kurang mil taigel pukpora asem del share share tiar program mal di meritiang agi mal mereng asuli we have a nice weekend makuk next